Greetings, my people, wagwan. So, I wanted to do a show today about the 1666 Cestui Vi. I think that's what it's called. Um, and why it is so important for you to do a claim of the life or a live life claim. When you're you are born, okay, they say that when you're born, they give you a birth certificate. But when you look at the birth certificate, it's all in capitalized letters, right? Now, um, according to certain laws, they basically state that capitalized letters mean that the individual is a dead entity. Okay, um, we as people of Turtle Island basically go into these foreign courts and are treated as if we were dead because we do not have a claim of the life. And when it comes down to it, we are not using our system. Okay, um, I don't know what our system is. I don't. They say it's an Iroquois constitution or something like that, but when it really comes down to it, we did not stay together or fuse together to create a system that would be representational to us, right? We are still under the crown. And the crown is basically Knights of Columbus, Bar Association, Canadian Bar Association, American Bar Association, all fall under ends of law. Ends of law is in London, England, and ends of law is a subdivision of the Catholic Church under the Spanish Inquisition. So I wanted to go over the cestui Vi that comes out of the UK, and I'm gonna keep saying this. I don't have anything against any people around the world. I have things against systems that basically won't allow me to live the life that I wish to live. Meaning that anytime I'm um, contacted by a police agent, and I won't call them police officer because I'm not going to give them title to an office. Okay, anytime a police agent pulls me over or we're dealing with like any situation, it's always a roadside interrogation or it's dealing with a situation where uh, one, the red and blue lights are light therapy. When you were children, you were told that red means hot and blue means cold. Your mind actually remembers that, your inner child. When those lights are flashing at your eyes, it actually releases adrenaline. That's why your heart starts pounding, even if you haven't done anything, and they're just going by. That's light therapy. Once you start understanding that light therapy is being um, performed on you, then you can stay calm. Okay? If you believe that you haven't done anything wrong, if you are, um, you know, if you are just traveling on the road from point A to B, and you need to realize that um, driving is conducting commerce and operating a coach, like a taxi, um, a truck driver, a train driver, airplane driver. They need those driver's license that basically allow you to conduct commerce because majority of the act statutes regulations are for government employees and their wards. That means their children, right, or their wards that cannot handle their own affairs, their own paperwork. And they've made it pretty difficult to like find any paperwork or deal with any paperwork. But one thing that is important is parents need to start claiming their children, right? They're little yotes, okay? They need to create a claim of the life right at birth. That's what I'm going to say. Why not? Right? So that they'll know that they are living flesh and blood beings that have the ability to engage in the third dimension in this reality that is basically created on oppression. The first prison colony was not um, Australia. The first prison colony was here, and Europe, Spain, France, Germany, England, Russia, China, you name it. They released all of their prisons and sent those people here to basically deal with the inhabitants of this land, or the habitants of this land. Why? Because the less of us that can make claim to this land, the better off these systems will be. Okay, in 1621, it was the charter of the West Indian Company, and we're going to go over that in another show. But they're doing the same thing they're doing like right now, shutting off the islands and not allowing the people or the indigenous people to go from point A to B. We can't even cross our own, borders. We don't even have point of contact. We don't control the harbor. We don't control the border. We don't control customs. We don't control nothing. So it doesn't, like, tons of stuff could come in and out of this country, and nobody would know the wiser, because guess what? These people are foreigners and they don't give a fuck. Straight up. But let's go back to what we're going to deal with today, which is the 1666 cestui and why it's so important.
Cestui Cavi Act 1666. Published by legislation.gov.uk. Acts of the English Parliament. 1666c. 11. Regnal. 18 _ 19 _ 2. Changes over time for Cestui Cavi Act 1666. Exit from the EU. There may be changes and effects to this legislation not yet recorded or applied to the text. View results.
Now, they want to exit from the EU. I wonder why they want to exit from the EU. Could it be because the King of the Netherlands, William Alexander, is now the King of England, Ireland, and Scotland under the House of Orange? And the Queen of England, who is a co-Saxon Gother, is actually a relation to Beatrix, who is the German queen. The queen is German. You have to realize that the New York was known as New Netherlands. Okay, the Treaty of Ghent, where they took the waterway from the Indians, right, who are Negroes. Okay, you can actually look up the etymology for Negroes and realize it's American Indians. Now, these things I see as they want to reset. Okay, in resetting, they can separate from the EU. They don't have to follow protocol of any of the other European countries. All their investments that they've had over here, because the indigenous people or the Indians of this land, I'm not going to call them indigenous. They're niggadines, because they had the eye to basically cancel out that word, right? We're basically a contradiction of terms. Let's continue, shall we? before I go off.
There are currently no known outstanding effects for the Cestui Que Vie Act 1666. Cestui Que Vie Act 1666. 1666 Chapter 11, 18 and 19 Cha 2. An act for redress of inconveniencies by want of proof of the deceases of persons beyond the seas or absenting themselves, upon whose lives estates do depend. X1 recital that Cestui Que Vies have gone beyond sea, and that reversioners cannot find out.
When you hear the word reversioners, that means is it attorneys? Is either attorneys or judges? They can't find out if you're alive or dead.
Find out whether they are alive or dead. Whereas divers lords of manors and others have granted estates by lease for one or more life or lives, or else for years determinable upon one or more life or lives, and it hath often happened that such person or persons for whose life or lives such estates have been granted have gone beyond the seas or soe absented themselves for many years, that the lessors and reversioners cannot find out whether such person or persons be alive or dead, by reason whereof such lessors and reversioners have been held out of possession of their tenements for many years after all the lives upon which such estates depend are dead, in regard that the lessors and reversioners, when they have brought actions for the recovery of their tenements, have been put upon it to prove the death of their tenants, when it is almost impossible for them to discover the same. For remedy of which mischief soe frequently happening to such lessors or reversioners. Editorial information.
So basically, if you go beyond the sea, right? You go beyond from port to port. So you leave the airport, right? You get on an airplane and you go to the West Indian Islands, right? You say you're going to Jamaica. And when you land to the other port, you actually have to tell the other port that you left that you reach safe. This is back in the day when they used to take their balsa wood ships across the ocean. They like to call it the pond. They take it across the ocean, and sometimes they would make it, sometimes they wouldn't. And every time they would make it, they would actually have to wait 3 months in order for the ship to come back, or another ship to come back, to basically say that, oh, hey, this person alive, this person made it, this person made it, this person died, and this person made it. And whoever's property was in a trust at the time, and that's why they like to create trusts, right? Because then it goes into it seems like it goes into a pool trust. That's what I'm thinking. But the trust would be still under the crown, right? So let's continue.
Cestui Que Vie remaining beyond sea for 7 years together, and no proof of their lives. Judge in action to direct a verdict as though Cestui Que Vie were dead.
You heard that.
If such person or persons for whose life or lives such estates have been or shall be granted as aforesaid shall remain happening to such lessors or reversioners. Editorial information. Cestui Que Vie remaining beyond sea for 7 years together, and no proof of their lives. Judge in action to direct a verdict as though Cestui Que Vie were dead. Cestui Que Vie remaining beyond sea for 7 years together, and no proof of their lives. Judge in action to direct a verdict as though Cestui Que Vie were dead.
So you go into court, right? You go into court and you're in front of a reversioner. That's what they're basically called. They're not judges. The only way you can be a judge is if they're in their respective countries. Okay, if they are, you walk into a crown court, the lawyer, the judge, and the prosecuting attorney is a part of the bar association. Okay, the bar association is of Inns of Law. Inns of Law is in London, England. So, which is controlled by the priests and the Jesuits and the Catholic Church. Now, if you go in there and a reversioner is saying that, You're standing there and you don't have a claim of life, if you do not have a proof that you are a living flesh and blood person, guess what? The reversioner is supposed to gear the verdict as if you were dead. So you're considered dead in the eyes of the law. You probably heard that saying before.
If such person or persons for whose life or lives such estates have been or shall be granted as aforesaid shall remain beyond the seas or elsewhere absent themselves in this realme by the space of 7 years together, and no way sufficient and evident proof be made of the lives of such person or persons respectively in any action commenced for recovery of such tenements by the lessors or reversioners. In every such case the person or persons upon whose life or lives such estate depended shall be accounted as naturally dead. And in every action brought for the recovery of the said tenements by the lessors or reversioners their hires or assigns.
So all the people who are hired, the prosecuting attorney, the lawyer, the judge, your landlord, the cop, anyone, the mayor, your prime minister, your governor general, they are all supposed to basically say that you're dead. You're basically a dead entity. Okay, and I remember going to go get my driver's license because I do conduct commerce. I don't mind conducting commerce with these guys because basically I like to charge them for my time. If you're going to pull me over on the side of the road, guess what? You're paying me for my time where I am actually engaging with you. You are on the clock. Okay? You're on the clock. Straight up. And I'll let them know that. You're on the clock. What's that mean? Well, basically, if we are here, you're pulling me over in order to parlay, and you're going to be treating because I am very expensive. I'm a expensive whore since you want to treat me like a whore. Okay? Do you understand what I'm saying? Because time is money. That is the famous saying when it comes to economics. And according to economics, you are a highwayman and you wish to parlay.
The judges before whom such action shall be brought shall direct the jury to give their verdict as if the person SOE remaining beyond the seas or otherwise absenting himself were dead.
You heard that.
F1. 3.
So now, when you go to court and you're basically dealing with all these people, every single person in prison right now is a dead entity. If they do not have a family that claims them, they are dead people. Okay, we work on a debt pledge system, a debt note. We spend debt notes. We We go and purchase a house, and we become ghosts in our house. A mortgage means a death pledge, and you possess your house when you get possession. So you're a ghost, a duppy in your house when you buy it from these death dealers who are known as real estate agents who follow policies from multinational corporations like Remax and all these other Royal LePage and all these other real estate agents who are multinational companies that basically purchase these properties and have it as holdings. So when you go and you say, okay, I'm going to spend my hard-earned money, a roof over my head is possible, right? You sign all these papers, but you don't read the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac contract. You basically just sign the contract. You're so happy to get in this house. When do you get possession? Oh, I get possession on Monday. So that's when you become a ghost? Because I've seen poltergeists, and I remember poltergeists when they started possessing people, and Okay. Shall we continue? Yes, we shall.
F2. IV. If the supposed dead man prove to be alive, then the title is revested.
Revested.
Action for mean profits with interest. X2
Profits and
provided always
interest?
that if any person or X3 person or persons shall be evicted out of any lands or tenements by virtue of this act, and afterwards if such person or persons upon whose life or lives such estate or estates depend shall return again from beyond the seas, or shall on proof in any action to be brought for recovery of the same, X3 to be made appear to be living, or to have been living. At the time
Living.
of the eviction, that then and from thenceforth the tenant or lessee who was outed of the same his or their executors, administrators, or assigns shall or may re-enter, repossess, have hold, and enjoy the said lands or tenements in his or their former estate for enduring the life or lives or soe long term as the said person or persons upon whose life or lives the said estate or estates depend shall be living. And also shall upon action or actions to be brought by him or them against the lessors, reversioners, or tenants in possession or other persons respectively, which since the time of the said eviction received the profits of the said lands or tenements, recover for damages the full profits of the said lands or tenements respectively with lawful interest for and from the time that he or they were outed of the said lands or tenements.
Okay, so basically, I now know how to get my house. Because the thing is, all you have to do is make notice and let them know that you're going to sue them beyond existence, and here is my live life claim. My claim of the life, which I need 2 other people to, what do you call it? To basically say that I'm a flesh and blood living entity, right? And especially being a landlord of this Rasclad place, we have to jump through so much Rasclad hoops. You see what I mean? We have to jump through so much Rasclad hoops in order for us to do anything or be anyone. We've been sitting back fighting for what? What are we fighting for? What's the fight for? For land that's basically yours? You're fighting for space? You know how much space is here? You don't need to be in these cities, do you? Right? But the thing is, the Homestead Act allowed Europeans to come here and get free land. Right? $10. Here's $10. Give me a couple acres of land. Right? And I'm gonna go over some of the documents, like the Royal Proclamation, that basically shows you that Indian Territory is from the Mississippi River all the way to California, but under manifest destiny. We have the Dirty Dutch, right, and certain dirty Frenchmen and dirty Englishmen that came here to kill and massacre Indians. And I've actually talked, to people whose fathers actually were sent here to kill Indians so that they could obtain the land that they're living on right now. A lot of them are dead now, but the families are on a list. They're on a list. Old 300, there's a list there. Because the old 300 is basically the ones that created the Dominion of Canada. And a dominion means to be under the foot of someone or something, right? But you now know, if you've lost your house, even if you were kicked out by a tenement, reason being is that what would you be paying your bills with? What do you pay your bills with? Do you think you pay your bills with money? Because money is gold and silver, and that is a plungeable instrument, meaning that I could plunge it into the ocean, and 300-400 years you can come back and it'll still be gold and it'll still be silver. This fiat currency that we have been given is a debt note, a debt pledge, right? Something that you can you had the ability under Executive Order 6102, House Joint Resolution 72-10, you had the ability to discharge your debt on the public side and to offset your debt on the private side. It is public record. And those are seeing certain things that we just don't read. You know what I mean? It's like knowing that something is wrong, but you don't know what is wrong. We were integrated uh, in with Europeans somehow. I just don't understand how that is possible, but I do understand how it's possible because if you actually understand that Europeans are African albinos, so Africans basically integrated with the Europeans, not us. We're still chattel property. I've been to court. I've heard the man speak of English rulings, right? But I didn't have a live life claim at the time. But then when he told me that, he told me straight up that I'll never figure it out. That's the one thing you should never do is challenge a Jamaican, right? Yaso. That's what Jamaica means. They might have they might have hypothecated the parliament or the whole thing and state that under the Democratic Republican Party we will have a bipartisan government and we can, uh, be responsible for only the Queen's property because fuck these niggas. We don't give a fuck about them, right? They're nobodies. We don't have to provide no service. We don't have to provide no service at all. These niggas are on their own. Well, guess what? We actually have a system of governance that we should be using, but we don't. It's been incorporated since what, 1914 or 1920? Yeah, before the 1933 fiasco and hypothecation. So once you have a claim of life, okay, a live life claim, and we're gonna do one because I'll show you one that I've done, right? It's under the Universal Negro Improvement Association, and Negro means American Indian, okay, created by Marcus Garvey. It is still running. It is still in operation, okay. It is still what do you call it? An organization where 7 people can get together and create their own organization. Okay. And I am going to amend it and create my own. According to Marcus Garvey, every man should create his own organization. Every man. So I'm going to create my own. And I'm going to start making moves and do business just like these multinational corporations, because guess what? The UNIA is worldwide. You can actually see all the countries that used the red, black, and green flag and see that a war has started with all of them. Why? Because these other multinational corporations are jealous as fuck. Why? Because they used that blueprint to create the United Nations. Marcus Garvey was the first one, okay, to get 125 countries together. He created the UNIA in 1914, right? After that creation with his wife, Amy Ashwood, okay, they created an organization that was like no other. See, the Treaty of London was the first time when countries got together to come to the aid of each other. But in 1945, or in 1919, or it started actually in 1519, and then it was 1915, and then it was 1945, right? But when you read the treaty of, or the Constitution of UNIA, and we'll go over that again, but as you can see, when you walk into any court, you will be considered as a dead man. You see any police agent, he is making sure that you are considered as a dead man. Why they can walk around, just shoot anybody they want, is because you are a dead man. You're a dead entity. You're dead in the eyes of the law. And it's not a black and white thing. No, it isn't, because when you look at the statistics, white people are getting shot like crazy because they think they can get away with shit. So they're basically one of the biggest criminals out there, right? So they're always doing some nefarious shit. Okay, the certain things that you actually see, you see Masons and Boule members basically killing Negroes to continue that narrative of drive-bys and all that kind of shit. And it's pretty sad, right? Because there is so much. This land is huge. Whether anybody like it or not, this is the largest estate in the world. And we are the heirs to this estate, whether anybody likes it or not. It's not my fault that I was born into what do you call it? A kingship. You know what I mean? It's not my fault that I'm a king onto my own right. So whether anyone likes it or not, I claim my life, right? I have a proof of life. I have 2 witnesses that basically say that I'm alive. Okay. Any reversioner that sees or knows that of the dealings that we've had in the past, I am coming for you. I'm coming for you. I am going to basically bring it to you and either ask for your resignation or your deportation under Civil Order July 4th, 2014. Motu proprio motu. And no ifs, ands, buts about it. Because you basically made a mockery of a court, but then again, you were actually doing your job. You know what I'm saying? But I am going to give you a bill that is a true bill, and I'm going to need you to pay it. And I'm gonna require my house. You're gonna have to evict those people that's gonna be in the house. So I'm just giving you notice now. But as you can see, the claim of life is very important, right? Because it is still in the UK legislature that is separating from the EU because the Queen was found guilty for crimes against humanity in an international common law court of justice in France. I guess the world really wants to move forward, but all these royal families are still hanging out about. It's a shame that you're acting like a bunch of demons, though. Your brother, the prince, who's eating children and been to Epstein's island, shame. I suggest you get rid of him.
Tenements. And kept or held out of the same by the said lessers, reversioners, tenants, or other tenants or tenant
Let's go back
for always that if any person or X3 person or persons shall be evicted out of any lands or tenements by virtue of this act, and afterwards if such person or persons upon whose life or lives such as.
So anyone who's been evicted out of these lands, Sierra Leone. My people over there in Sierra Leone who basically got evicted from Jamaica, I suggest you start doing live life claims and sue the shit out of all the dirty scumbags who misrepresented their own land and made themselves demons wanted to act like they were too good, okay? And I'm calling out the Governor General Patrick Allen because I was expelled from my land at 7 years old. So it makes me ask the question, what about me made it so scary that you had to kick my ass out? Hmm? Me, my brother, and my mother. What? Why did you have to get rid of the most educated people in the land? Why would you follow such policies? You ever asked your successors? But then again, it is in the Constitution, isn't it?
State or states depend shall return again from beyond the seas, or shall on proof in any action to be brought for recovery of the same, ex 3 to be made appear to be living, or to have been living. At the time of the eviction that then and from thenceforth the tenant or lessee who was outed of the same his or their executors, administrators, or assigns shall or may re-enter, repossess, have hold, and enjoy the said lands or tenements in his or their former estate for enduring the life or lives or soe long term as the said person or persons upon whose life or lives the said estate or estates depend shall be living. And also shall upon action or actions to be brought by him or them against the lessors, reversioners, or tenants in possession or other persons respectively, which since the time of the said eviction received the profits of the said lands or tenements, recover for damages the full profits of the said lands or tenements respectively, with lawful interest for and from the time that he or they were outed of the said lands or tenements.
It seems to me that a lot of Choctaw, Chickasaw, all of these Indians could start putting together their live life claim and making sure that they actually get what they deserve. Don't you think? Since you've been taking the funds and paying other people and inviting other people to actually come here and obtain lands and tenements and allowing them the benefits of this beautiful country, I think it's time's up and it's our turn.
Tenements. And kept or held out of the same by the said lessors, reversioners, tenants, or other persons who after the said eviction received the profits of the said lands or tenements, or any of them respectively, as well in the case when the said person or persons upon whose life or lives such estate or estates did depend or shall be dead at the time of bringing of the said action or actions, as if the said person or persons were then living. Editorial information.
So, when you go back to these reversioners, these so-called commissioners, because that's what they are, they're commissioners. And if you're in Canada, you're going to see a master in chambers. Those masters are dock masters, okay, under the Dock Master Act. See, when you challenge me and tell me I'm not going to figure anything out, I'll never figure it out, so don't even bother. It reminded me like my grade 2 teacher that told me I'm not going to amount to anything, so don't even bother. Well, guess what? I figured it out. You thought I couldn't read, but guess what? I could read, and I use a lot of app reader, and I struggled through a bunch of boring treaties, constitutions, acts, statutes, regulations, and realized that now I know why you make it so hard. You don't go like simple to the point. And our people are still going to be behind. The reason being is that they think that all of those reversioners who give back the amount that is owed to us, we're going to spend it in we're going to spend it right back into the system. And that's what everybody wants, isn't it? Right? Isn't that what everybody wants? Everybody wants us to keep the system going and just, keep spending and keep spending and spending. We spend the most. we spend the most. I know that I spend every single thing that I have. Reason being is that I don't make that much, but I spend everything on my family. I make sure they have a roof over their head. I make sure they have food in their belly, and I make sure that anything that they need, they get. I'll spend all of it. I don't care. I don't care if I am walking with like holes in my shoes or holes in my jeans or whatever. I'm going to spend all of it on my family. And it's funny because that's not what I'm supposed to do. I'm actually supposed to create my own business. I'm actually supposed to take care of myself, right? And then once I can take care of myself, then I can take care of a family. But you know what? When it comes down to it, and you like fucking, and basically the product of fucking is children, um, you're gonna have to figure it out really quick. And that's what's happened. You know, we're not very intelligent animals to think that, oh, I'm going to pick a very strong individual. I'm going to pick someone who's smart. I'm going to pick somebody who's ambitious. I'm going to pick. No, I'm looking at, oh, women are checking out men who treat them like shit for one, who have tons and tons of girls with them. And the thing is, a lot of women don't mind if you have another female, like a polygamy relationship, right? But the thing is that certain guys are just like sneaky. And if you're going to be sneaky, that's how you're going to be treated. You know what I mean? You're going to be treated like shit. But they're also full of shit. Bling, bling, gold, diamonds, jewels, worthless. All of it. Fucking worthless. Every single thing that you see in this whole entire place is freaking worthless. The only thing that is worth something is you. Whether you like it or not, you are the most valuable commodity on the face of this land. Each one of us is worth billions. Why? Because there's something going on in here that could revolutionize the world. You are the next stage to this whole evolutionary manipulation. But they want to manipulate the revolution. Right? But we're going to, so after you have your claim of life, what do you do with it? What do you do with it? You basically start suing people who owe you money. And that's under the UCC 1. Okay? Somebody owes you money, that's how it is. Okay, we're going to watch a short little video. It is how to settle your strawman cestui trust. Okay, this I found, and I think it's very interesting, and I'd love for you to see it. Oop.
So we put an acknowledgement of debt, and we follow that with, or along with, a settlement, an order for a settlement. That right there would be the estoppel and give us time to prepare the paperwork for what is needed to do the settlement. And how we're going to do the settlement. Well, I've gone through this before, but I'll do it again. So if we drew a circle, say in the middle of a paper, about a 6-inch circle, and we drew a line right down, vertical line right down the center of it, split it in half. And on the left side is really the public side, the minus side, where the liability is. And on the right side is the asset side, or the private side. Now, I would draw a line, a horizontal line at the bottom of the circle, straight across. And now what you have is the traditional upside-down T account, which is nothing more than a ledger under accounting, where you have assets on the right.
Okay, a T account or a ledger is an upside-down T. Where else do you see an upside-down T? Isn't that the symbol for the devil? An upside-down cross?
You have liabilities on the left. So all those people that are going into the DTC are going to be falling into potential trap. So when they go into the DTC and they go in answering questions, they are not asking questions as king, because a king always asks questions. So it's ask king questions as king. So the one who asks the question is the king. And they're asking the questions whether or not you know what you're doing in there, and you're not going in as the king asking questions. They're asking the questions, and they're the king, and you're the debtor. And those people that are successful to get in there think they're going to be getting access to their accounts. And there's where the big benefit comes in. And if you fall into the trap by taking the benefit, you never even got out, and you've got yourself in a bigger mess than what you got into, because you are just nothing more than a better paid slave. Because they're going to give to you all the treasury securities, the treasury bills, the T-bills, and maybe even the gold certificates or whatever's in that account. They're going to give it all to you. And at that moment, what you do with it is going to determine whether or not you're going to be succeeding in completing what you thought you were starting out doing, or whether you're going to never get out and you're going to increase the debt even farther, and they're going to love you for it. Because if you take those certificates, those T-bills, and you spend them like money, like they hope you will, you're going to take the benefit, which is the debt, and you're going to spend it back into the debt system and thinking that you got access to your account, and you didn't. So all those debt titles on the left side, we're going to draw, inside that left side, we're going to draw another smaller circle, and we're going to put a capital T in there, and capital T stands for titles. And at the foot of that T, we're going to put a small d. The D stands for debt. So it's the titles to the debt on the left side. We're going to do another circle on the right side. We're going to put a capital T in there also. Now that's the titles. And at the foot of that T, we're going to put a little A. And the A stands for assets. So it's the titles to the assets. Now if you take those titles to the debt on the debt side and you spend them, you're just going to create more debt, double debt, paying debt, and you can't pay debt with debt. It just keeps mounting up, and that's where they're loving you. And you're creating more problems than you realize. You're putting the final clinches on the whole collapse of this whole thing. But if you treat it as a trust, and you take the title and you draw a line from the TD up to, now we're going to draw another circle at the top, and we're going to put SM in there. That's the strawman account. We're going to take and merge the titles. We're going to move the title, the TD, and we're going to draw an arrow to that SM. And we're going to move that title to the debt into that SM, that strawman account. And on the right-hand side, the TA, the title to the assets, which is going to be the same amount as the TD on the left. They're going to be equal. We're going to move that title. We're going to draw a line up from that TA up into that SM strawman account. Now what we've done is we've settled the accounts. In effect, we're closing it. You've got the assets equaling the debts. And what happens when you take a minus and a plus and bring it together? Well, it discharges on the public side and it sets off on the private side. You bring the account to zero. But here's the thing. 1 penny of real money, lawful money on the private side will discharge all debts, all fiction money on the liability side. So if I fell into the trap and used those titles to the debt as money, I never did collapse the trust. I never did terminate the trust. The trust still exists. But if I move both titles to the debt into the straw man and the titles to the assets, the straw man accounts terminates. The trust purpose has been fulfilled. There is no trust. And what happens when the trust is terminated? The trustee must wind it up. He winds up the trust and he terminates the trust. In other words, he has to disperse the funds. The real money, still being held in private, minus, say, 1 penny. So now, what we're going to do from the remainder, let's back up a little bit. After we gave the order for the settlement, we're going to give an order for the discharge on the public side. We're going to give an order for the set-off on the private side. And we're going to give an order to set up a new trust on the private side. And once that strawman account is closed, the remainder from that account is going to be transferred into the new trust. And that new trust you're going to get a whole total different kind of credentials for. The strawman account with his capital names, with all the accounts associated with him, are eliminated. They're gone. They're terminated. period. All your electric bill accounts and everything in that way will no longer exist. But you're going to form a new trust, another account, and you're going to have the remainder of that assets being put into that, and that's going to remain on the private side. Then you're going to come back over and you're going to order a new trust to be set up on the public side, an LLC, say, for example. You're going to order the Treasury to do the trade or whatever they're going to do to generate the interest held on the property or the assets held in private, and to deposit that interest and that LLC on the public side. And you will live forever on the interest that was generated from that. And as long as you just use that interest to purchase goods and service, that the goods and services that you purchase are consumed by the real man held in private. As long as you don't conduct a business with that account, that new LLC, you won't be commingling your funds again, and you won't be creating any new debt. So in effect, you've taken care of the war debt, taken care of all past debts, and you've paid all present, and you've paid all future debts that may be in the future. And you've discharged them on the public side and set them off on the private side. And the remainder was transferred into this new account on the private side, which is generating interest on a new LLC on the public side, and that interest is placed into that. And you will write checks like that, and nobody will be the wiser. And it is not taxable because it's foreign source. And you will be given the credentials to identify this new trust entity, and you'll become whoever. And you'll be able to travel like you were before, probably with more freedom than you had before under today's terms. So that's basically it in a nutshell. The documentation is simple. As long as we do due process and notify all parties, and they will never answer back, because they never have. Because if they did, they'd be acknowledging the debt themselves, and it would stop the prescription. So we have to go and ask questions, because the one asking questions as king is king. And the questions I want to be asking are, do you have all the necessary forms in your possession to close and settle this account? If they say yes, well then, you've already got the order for the settlement, then close and settle it. If they say no, then I would give them an order to give me the forms that I need to complete the information so you can close and settle the accounts. It's as simple as that. I think we make things too hard under this debtor-creditor brainwashing that we continually go back to like a dog to its vomit. And we don't have to. So that also explains the reasons why some of these 1099 OIDs that were withholding, they put on the withholding there and taxed it back to the principal. And as soon as they got it back to the principal, the IRS seized the funds or locked up the account. Because the account, the IRS accountants couldn't give the disbursement to the beneficiaries who were debtors. Because as soon as the assets were transferred to them, the creditors would jump all on them. So what they had to do is they had to seize the assets and apply it to the debt. And that's why you didn't get any funds until we pay the past war debts, all the past debts, present debts, future debts that may be out there, do the discharge on the public side to set off on the private side, terminate that account. So with that, why don't we open it up for some questions? How about it? Anybody have any questions? I believe it's press *5 for an
And that's it. Just went to the 1666 cestui vai, which was an act, and now it's a trust.